Deacon is a ministry in the Christian Church that is generally associated with service of some kind, but which varies among theological and denominational traditions. In many traditions the diaconate, the term for a deacon's office, is a clerical office, in others it is filiati. The word deacon is derived from the Greek word diakonos, which is a standard ancient Greek word meaning servant, waiting man, minister, or messenger. One commonly promulgated speculation as to its etymology is that it literally means through the dust, referring to the dust raised by the busy servant or messenger. The title, deaconess, is not found in the Bible. However, a woman, Phoebe, is mentioned at Romans chapter 16 verses 1-2 as a deacon of the church in Centra. Nothing more specific is said about her duties or authority. It is generally believed that the office of deacon originated in the selection of 7 men by the apostles, among them Stephen, to assist with the charitable work of the early church as recorded in Acts chapter 6. Female deacons are mentioned by Pliny the Younger in a letter to Trajan dated c. 112. The exact relationship between male and female deacons varies. In some traditions a female deacon is simply a member of the order of deacons, in others, deaconesses constitute a separate order, in others, the title, deaconess, was also given to the wife of a deacon. A biblical description of the qualities required of a deacon, and of his household, can be found in 1 Timothy chapter 3 verses 1-13. Among the more prominent deacons in history are Stephen, the first Christian martyr, Philip, whose baptism of the Ethiopian eunuch is recounted in Acts chapter 8 verses 26-40, St. Lawrence, an early Roman martyr, St. Vincent of Saragossa, protomartyr of Spain, St. Francis of Assisi, founder of the Mendicant Franciscans, St. Ephrem the Syrian and St. Romanos the Melodist, a prominent early hymnographer. Prominent historical figures who played major roles as deacons and went on to higher office include Saint Athanasius of Alexandria, Thomas Becket and Reginald Pole. On June 8, 536, a serving Roman deacon was raised to Pope Silverius. His father, Pope Agapetus, had died and the office had been vacant for over a month. The title is also used for the president, chairperson, or head of a trades guild in Scotland, and likewise to 2 officers of the Masonic Lodge, Catholicism, Orthodoxy, Anglicanism. The diaconate is one of the major orders in the Catholic, Anglican, Eastern Orthodox, and Oriental Orthodox churches. The other major orders are those of bishop and presbyter. While the diaconate as a permanent order was maintained from earliest apostolic times to the present in the Eastern churches, it mostly disappeared in the Western Church during the first millennium, with Western churches retaining deacons attached to diocesan cathedrals. The diaconate continued in a vestigial form as a temporary, final step along the course to ordination to the Roman Catholic priesthood. In the 20th century, the diaconate was restored as a permanent order in many Western churches, most notably in the Latin Rite of the Catholic Church, the Anglican Communion, and the United Methodist Church. In Catholic, Orthodox, and Anglican churches, deacons assist priests in their pastoral and administrative duties, but often report indirectly to the bishops of their diocese. They have a distinctive role in the liturgy, their main tasks being to proclaim the gospel, preach, assist in the administration of the Eucharist and to serve the poor and outcast. Roman Catholicism beginning around the 5th century, there was a gradual decline in the permanent diaconate in the Latin Church. It has however remained a vital part of the Eastern Catholic churches. From that time until the years just prior to the Second Vatican Council, the only men ordained as deacons were seminarians who were completing the last year or so of graduate theological training, who received the order several months before priestly ordination. Following the recommendations of the Council, in 1967 Pope Paul VI issued the Motu Propria Sacram Diaconatus Ordinem, restoring the ancient practice of ordaining to the diaconate men who were not candidates for priestly ordination. These men are known as permanent deacons in contrast to those continuing their formation, who were then called transitional deacons. There is no sacramental difference between the two, however, as there is only one order of deacons. The permanent diaconate formation period in the Roman Catholic Church varies from diocese to diocese as it is determined by the local ordinary, but it usually entails a year of prayerful preparation, a 4 or 5 year training period that resembles a collegiate course of study, and a year of post-ordination formation as well as the need for lifelong continuing education credits. Diaconal candidates receive instruction in philosophy, theology, study of the Holy Scriptures, homiletics, sacramental studies, evangelization, ecclesiology, counseling, and pastoral care and ministry before ordination. Although they are assigned to work in a parish by the diocesan bishop, once assigned, deacons are under the supervision of the parish pastor. Unlike most clerics, permanent deacons who also have a secular profession have no right to receive a salary for their ministry, but many dioceses opt to remunerate them anyway. The ministry of the deacon in the Roman Catholic Church is described as one of service in 3 areas: the word, the liturgy and charity. The deacon's ministry of the word includes proclaiming the gospel during the Mass, preaching and teaching. The deacon's liturgical ministry includes various parts of the Mass proper to the deacon, including being an ordinary minister of Holy Communion and the proper minister of the chalice when Holy Communion is administered under both kinds. The ministry of charity involves service to the poor and marginalized and working with parishioners to help them become more involved in such ministry. As clerics, deacons are required to recite the Liturgy of the Hours. Deacons, like priests and bishops, are ordinary ministers of the sacrament of baptism and can serve as the Church's witness at the sacrament of holy matrimony, which the bride and groom administer to each other. Deacons may preside at funeral rites not involving a Mass, and may assist the priest at the Requiem Mass. They can preside over various services such as benediction of the Blessed Sacrament, and they may give certain blessings. They cannot hear confession and give absolution, anoint the sick, or celebrate Mass. At Mass, the deacon is the ordinary minister of the proclamation of the Gospel and of Holy Communion. As ordained clerics, and if granted faculties by their bishops, deacons may preach the homily at a public Mass, unless the priest-celebrant retains that ministry to himself at a given Mass. The vestments most particularly associated with the Western Rite Catholic deacon are the alb, stole and dalmatic. Deacons, like priests and bishops, must wear their albs and stoles. Deacons place the stole over their left shoulder and it hangs across to their right side, while priests and bishops wear it around their necks. The dalmatic, a vestment especially associated with the deacon, is worn during the celebration of the Mass and other liturgical functions. Its use is more liberally applied than the corresponding vestment of the priest. The chasuble. At certain major celebrations, such as ordinations, the diocesan bishop wears a dalmatic under his chasuble. Permanent deacons often serve in parish or other ministry as their time permits, since they typically have other full-time employment. They may also act as parish administrators. With the passage of time, more and more deacons are serving in full-time ministries in parishes, hospitals, prisons, and in diocesan positions. Deacons often work directly in ministry to the marginalized inside and outside the church. The poor, the sick, the hungry, the imprisoned. The transitional diaconate is to be conferred on seminarians no sooner than 23 years of age. The permanent diaconate can be conferred on single men 25 or older, and on married men 35 or older, but an older age can be required by the Episcopal Conference. If a married deacon is widowed, he must maintain a celibate state. Under some very rare circumstances, however, deacons who have been widowed can receive permission to remarry. This is most commonly done when the deacon is left as a single father. In some cases, a widowed deacon will seek priestly ordination, especially if his children are grown. The wife of a permanent deacon may be sometimes considered a partner in his ordained ministry. In many dioceses, the wife of the diaconal candidate undertakes the same education and training her husband does. A permanent deacon is not styled father, as a priest would be, but as deacon, abbreviated variously as DN, or DCN. This preferred method of address is stated in the 2005 document of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops' National Directory for the Formation, Ministry and Life of Permanent Deacons in the United States. The proper address in written correspondence for all deacons of the Latin Catholic Church is Rev. Mr. Rev. Mr. However, is more often used to indicate a transitional deacon or one who belongs to a religious institute, while Rev. Deacon is used as the honorific for permanent deacons in many dioceses. The decision as to whether deacons wear the Roman collar as street attire is left to the discretion of each bishop for his own diocese. Where clerical garb is approved by the bishop, the deacon can choose to wear or not wear the collar. Where it is not permitted, the deacon must wear secular clothing. It is becoming more common to see deacons wearing a clerical suit, especially in prisons and jails. Deacons, like seminarians, religious, and the two other orders, bishops and priests, recite the Liturgy of the Hours. However, deacons, if they are obliged to do so, are usually only required to participate in morning and evening prayer. In solemn masses today, and more so in older rites of the Mass, one deacon will serve as the deacon of the Word, and the deacon of the Eucharist, who assists the priest during the liturgy of the Eucharist. Eastern Orthodoxy and Eastern Catholicism, in addition to reading the Gospel and assisting in the administration of Holy Communion, the deacon censes the icons and people, calls the people to prayer, leads the litanies, and has a role in the dialogue of the anaphora. In keeping with Eastern tradition, he is not permitted to perform any sacred mysteries on his own, except for baptism in extremis, conditions under which anyone, including the laity, may baptize. When assisting at a normal baptism, it is often the deacon who goes down into the water with the one being baptized. In contrast to the Roman Catholic Church, deacons in the Eastern churches may not preside at the celebration of marriages. As in Eastern theology, the sacrament is conferred by the nuptial blessing of a priest. Diaconal vestments are the sticharion, the orarion, and the epimanikia. The last are worn under his sticharion, not over it as does a priest or bishop. The deacon usually wears a simple orarion which is only draped over the left shoulder, but, if elevated to the rank of archdeacon, he wears the doubled orarion, meaning it is passed over the left shoulder, under the right arm, and then crossed over the left shoulder. In modern Greek practice, a deacon wears this doubled orarion from the time of his ordination. Also, in the Greek practice, he wears the clerical kamalauka with a rim at the top. In Slavic practice, a hierodeacon wears the simple black kamalauka of a monk, but he removes the monastic veil when he is vested. A married deacon would not wear a kamalauka unless it is given to him by the bishop as an ecclesiastical award. The honorary kamalauka is purple in color, and may be awarded to either married or monastic clergy. As far as street clothing is concerned, immediately following his ordination the deacon receives a blessing to wear the exarison, an outer cassock with wide sleeves, in addition to the anterion, the inner cassock worn by all orders of clergy. In the Slavic practice, married clergy may wear any of a number of colors, but most often gray, while monastic clergy always wear black. In certain jurisdictions in North America and Western Europe, a Roman collar is often worn, although this is not a traditional or widespread practice. A protodeacon is a distinction of honor awarded to senior deacons, usually serving on the staff of the diocesan bishop. An archdeacon is similar, but is among the monastic clergy. Protodeacons and archdeacons use a double-length orarion even if it is not the local tradition for all deacons to use it. In the Slavic tradition, a deacon may be awarded the doubled horarium even if he is not a protodeacon or archdeacon. According to the practice of the Greek Orthodox Church of America, in keeping with the tradition of the ecumenical patriarchate, the most common way to address a deacon is Father. Depending on local tradition, deacons are addressed as either Father, Father Deacon, Deacon Father, or, if addressed by a bishop, simply as Deacon. The tradition of kissing the hands of ordained clergy extends to the diaconate as well. This practice is rooted in the Holy Eucharist and is in acknowledgement and respect of the Eucharistic role members of the clergy play in preparing, handling and dispersing the sacrament during the divine liturgy, and in building and serving the Church as the body of Christ. Anciently, the Eastern churches blessed though never consecrated deaconesses. This practice fell into desuetude in the second millennium, but has been revived in some schismatic churches. Saint Nectarios of Pentapolis blessed a number of nuns as deaconesses in convents. Deaconesses would assist in anointing and baptizing women, and in ministering to the spiritual needs of the women of the community, but would not serve within the holy altar. As churches discontinued blessing women as deaconesses, these duties largely fell to the nuns and to the priests' wives. Anglicanism. In Anglican churches, deacons often work directly in ministry to the marginalized inside and outside the church. The poor, the sick, the hungry, the imprisoned. Unlike Orthodox and Catholic deacons who may be married only before ordination, Anglican deacons are permitted to marry freely before or after ordination, as of Anglican priests. Most deacons are preparing for priesthood and are usually ordained as priests about a year after their diaconal ordination. However, there are some deacons who do not go on to receive priestly ordination. Many provinces of the Anglican Communion ordain both women and men as deacons. Many of those provinces that ordain women to the priesthood previously allowed them to be ordained only to the diaconate. The effect of this was the creation of a large and overwhelmingly female diaconate for a time, as most men proceeded to be ordained priests after a short time as a deacon. Anglican deacons may baptize and in some dioceses are granted licenses to solemnize matrimony, usually under the instruction of their parish priest and bishop. Deacons are not able to preside at the Eucharist, nor can they pronounce God's absolution of sin or pronounce the Trinitarian blessing. In most cases, deacons minister alongside other clergy. An Anglican deacon wears an identical choir dress to an Anglican priest, cassock, surplice, tippet, and academic hood. However, liturgically, deacons usually wear a stole over their left shoulder and fastened on the right side of their waist. This is worn both over the surplice and the alb. A deacon might also wear a dalmatic. Deaconesses. The title, women deacon, or deaconess, appears in many documents from the early church period, particularly in the East. Their duties were often different from that of male deacons. Women deacons prepared adult women for baptism, and they had a general apostate to female Christians and catechumens. Women appear to have been ordained as deacons to serve the larger community until about the 6th century in the West and in the East until modern times. Liturgies for the ordination of women deacons are quite similar to those for male deacons, and the ancient ordination rites have been noted by groups like women priests. Although it is sometimes argued that women deacons of history were not sacramentally ordained in the full sense used in the present day in canons 1008 and 1009 of the Code of Canon Law. Some modern scholars argue that the ordination of women deacons would have been equally sacramental to that of male deacons. Currently, the Catholic Church has not restored women to the diaconate, although Vatican statements have declined to state that this is not possible, as they have in the case of priestly ordination. The Russian Orthodox Church had a female diaconate into the 20th century. The Holy Synod of the Orthodox Church of Greece restored a monastic female diaconate in 2004.